Now, the Hebrew version completely solves the contradiction and explains to us exactly why these women did not know that Yeshua's body was already anointed by Joseph and Nicodemus. Let's first consider the contradiction in the Greek version. This is about the death, burial, and resurrection of Yeshua Mashiach. And the Hebrew Gospel of Yochanan completely solves this contradiction. Now, based on the Greek version of the Gospels, we know that Yeshua was buried before sunset, just before the high Sabbath started, okay? And we know that Joseph of Arimathea, Yosef Miramatayim, buried Yeshua in the grave before sunset. Were there any eyewitnesses of Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection? Yes. For example, we know that Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were eyewitnesses of Yeshua's burial. They sat right opposite the grave as Joseph buried Yeshua's body in the grave. Okay, good. But then we also know from the Gospel of John that Nicodemus and Joseph anointed Yeshua's body with a large amount of ointment. Yeshua's body was properly embalmed when they buried Yeshua in the grave. Everything so far seems to make sense. However, why did the woman Mary Magdalene and the other Mary and the other woman come back 3 days later bringing spices and ointments to anoint Yeshua's body? They're supposed to be eyewitnesses of Yeshua's burial. But they don't even know that Joseph and Nicodemus already anointed Yeshua's body. How is that possible? This is a serious contradiction in the Greek version of the Gospels. And many people want to question Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection. No one can question that Yeshua really lived here on earth 2,000 years ago. But skeptics want to question Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection. So this is a very important topic. Now, the Hebrew version completely solves the contradiction and explains to us exactly why these women did not know that Yeshua's body was already anointed by Joseph and Nicodemus. So let's read from the Hebrew Gospel of Yochanan. It says, Az ba Yosef im Nikodimos le Yeshua balayla. Then Joseph came with Nicodemus to Yeshua balayla, in the night. Based on the Hebrew Gospel of Yochanan, Joseph and Nicodemus anointed Yeshua's body with ointments in the night. That means after sunset. In other words, before sunset, Joseph simply wrapped Yeshua's body in a linen cloth and buried Yeshua in the grave without anointing him before sunset. That's what the other women saw. They went back home thinking, we must come back and bring ointments to anoint Yeshua's body. After sunset, in the night, Joseph and Nicodemus came back to the grave and they anointed Yeshua's body in the night. That's why the women did not know anything about this. This solves the whole contradiction. However, what does the Greek version say? The Greek version says that Nicodemus, who previously had come to Yeshua by night. Meaning, John chapter 3, Nicodemus came to Yeshua in the night and asked Yeshua questions. In other words, the Greek version interpreted the text. They changed the text so it would not say they anointed Yeshua in the night. Maybe they thought this was a contradiction with the other Gospels saying that Yeshua was buried before sunset. So they interpreted the text saying this means Nicodemus who previously came to Yeshua in the night. So based on the Greek version, we could not know that Joseph and Nicodemus actually anointed Yeshua's body in the night after sunset. That crucial information was lost in the Greek Gospels, and now we have this big contradiction in the Greek Gospels. However, the Hebrew Gospel of Yochanan completely solves the problem. So there is no reason to doubt Yeshua's death, burial, and resurrection. These eyewitness accounts are true. We simply need to go back to the Hebrew text of the Gospels to fully understand how all these events took place.